We all have the same issues. We have so much on our plate that we're forced to juggle our responsibilities. In fact, we pride ourselves at being able to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and getting it all done by the timeline. Well, my friend, I'm here to tell you that's called multitasking, and it's the devil. What's the big deal? Tune in. You'll find out. Hello, and welcome back to Hidden Parts, the podcast. My name is Sean Monet, your host, and today we are going to have a very special conversation with our guest, Brandon Logan. Brandon is a licensed behavioral analyst. Hi, Brandon.
Hi. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm just thankful to have that you accepted my
Hmm.
invitation to come.
Of course. And I was very excited to come on this podcast just to talk about a behavior analyst or just the mind, multitasking, of course. But I like to talk about the mind all day. So yeah, I
Yeah,
was
so
very
let's get
excited.
into your mind. Tell us
Okay.
about yourself.
Okay. So right now, currently, I work as a licensed behavior analyst. So primarily with children or teens with autism, or on the spectrum, on some capacity, building programs and sequences either for them in a tailored way or for their families, and then teaching them how to, you know, implement those strategies to change the environment or whatever we need to. But what got me into this, which I have a very different experience as a behavior analyst than most, because of the fact that I now am applying this outside of the traditional ABA autism field. But what started that, when I was in my grad program, I was blessed with an opportunity to work with my supervisor who had experience applying ABA outside of autism. And she did multiple research projects, applying it to hockey and dance and applying the science of changing behavior to sports. So that allowed me an opportunity to learn from her to figure out how I can apply it with a local high school football team. And from there, I was invited to speak to this international ABAI conference, which was nerve wracking at first practicing for it because I was supposed to be speaking in front of like hundreds of people, and COVID happened, so it was virtual, which helped a lot, but it was still very, very nerve wracking.
Yeah, it would have been nerve-wracking
Oh
for
my
me either
god!
way.
But from there, I was asked to speak at Old Dominion University to talk about how I can, or how all now new licensed behavior analysts can apply ABA, which is applied behavior analysis, outside of the field of autism and how we can apply it throughout the world. So I talked about sustainability. I talked about mental health and bullying inside of schools. Of course, I had to talk about sports. So I talked about all these different ways that this science of behavior can be used to make the world better. That, of course, over time made me think like, wow, how can I do this now? So I began to partner with practitioners and subject matter experts to create courses and programs for I bring in the sequence and meet people where they are, the
Hmm.
tailored, individualized aspect, And we might bring in their information just to like tailor it to everybody where they're at, you know?
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. And that is what intrigues me so much about you. And speaking of the science of behavior,
Hmm.
that leads us to the title of this episode,
Yeah.
which is Jack of All Trades, Master of None.
Hmm.
We want to talk about multitasking. Multitasking is the devil.
Hmm.
And today we're going to just kind of have a stimulating conversation just to say, we do it, we all do it, but there's a difference. There's a busy life and then there's a living life. And we just want to make sure that we set those boundaries. So, you want to talk to me about multitasking,
Yeah.
Brandon?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think we kind of hear from teachers or gurus out here now that we should be learning better ways to figure out new ways or better ways to multitask, you know? Um,
Is there more ways?
no, no. It's humanly impossible for our brain to multitask. Where like literally the term multitasking came from, I think it was the 80s or the 70s, where it was used to help describe the computer with multitasking multiple tabs at once and how much power it took to do so. Our brains, yes, we're going to talk about our brains as if it were a supercomputer, but as it relates to like the neurobiological data loss that comes from multitasking, it's really like, is it worth it if we really want what we want, you know? So,
Okay, so let's break this down in
okay.
plain English.
Okay.
You start talking about some neuro this and neuro that. So let's back it up a little bit.
Hmm.
So today we're walking around and we're juggling responsibilities and
Hmm.
doing them well so that we think. But
Absolutely.
anyway, we're that by doing that we're treating our brain as a computer
Right.
when it is so
Right.
not,
Right.
and it can't be programmed.
No, well, it can be programmed, but if we're multitasking, then we're trying to program it by doing multiple things at once. And then the energy that we are using to do all these things at one time is isn't being effectively spent because of the fact that in order for our attention to be here, then if our attention isn't here, then this thing isn't getting life anymore. It's not getting attention. So as soon as we take it from here to here, if we didn't finish this, then we're just working on multiple projects. These things are just getting like fractionalized attention,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we unfortunately do this throughout life all the time. Um, is it effective?
I don't think so, but let's just kind of give a real live example of multitasking. For
Mm-hmm.
me, if I'm doing a load of laundry
Right.
and while, I'm waiting for the cycle to end and put the load in the dryer, I'm going to do something else.
Right.
Whether that be wash the dishes or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a version of multitasking, but in my opinion, it's a healthy
Yes.
version
Yes.
of multitasking. Can you give me an example of something, or, well, yeah, something that we all do
Mm-hmm.
that's an example of some unhealthy behavior?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we are in conversation. So yeah, no, we're talking about like texting and listening to somebody. If I'm listening but texting or reading an email, then one of these tasks has to get 50% or 25% while the other gets 75%. But at the end of the day, neither of them are getting 100% of my full presence. And if neither get my 100% of my full presence, I can't like fully immerse with this, you know? Because presence is a present,
Right.
you know?
It is truly a gift.
Again.
And I think as a people, we don't realize that. Or we realize it, but we take it for granted, like some of the
Yeah.
other things that we do.
Yeah.
But small shift,
Mm-hmm.
what you said to me resonated because we have relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have a relationship. We have relationships with our loved ones and whoever, coworkers, whoever, right? So how fair is that to the
Mm,
individual?
yeah.
And how fair
Yeah.
is that if you spin it, right?
Yeah.
If I'm coming to you,
Yeah.
Brandon, with some real deep stuff on my heart and I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about it because I revere you as my
Then
friend
yeah.
and you're giving me
Half attention.
half-ass stuff.
Hmm.
So
It's
does that
not
speak to the quality
mm,
of
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 attention.
your present?
Hmm. Yes. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is very difficult to. And we're gonna break down like presence is a present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it within the present moment, there are so many different opportunities to learn and grow and acquire new skill sets or perspectives. And if I'm 50% present, then I'm acquiring 50% of the available blessings available for me at. Point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's applies to me and to you, whoever you were interacting with, because you can only give 50% of your attention, your presence, just 50% of you if you're here while you're trying to be here at the same time.
Yeah, that's really deep. So that's why I say multitasking is the devil. And again, that saying, jack of all trades, master of many, well, it's master of one because your presence is the present.
Mm.
And it's a gift that you're giving to whoever that's in your space at the time. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely a gift to receive and to give, but being present.
So let's get into the
Absolutely.
brain. I
Mm.
want to talk about the brain a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
We talked about it like us treating it like a computer.
Mm-hmm.
So not.
Mm-hmm. It is not a computer. I do like to think about it in metaphor like it's a computer, but it's not a computer. And just we plug it up and it recharges with electricity. However long we want to use it. That is not what our brain is. Our brain is it has a limited amount of willpower per day.
Mm.
Like it has a limited amount of focused attention it can use per day. And if we know that, like that we have essentially a formula of willpower or of attention or of discipline that we can exercise per day, I think we'd be a little more intentional about how we use it. So given that it's a computer, in a sense, it's not a computer in terms of its our brain is going to burn out if we plug it in and we use it. We think we use our brain like we plug a computer in for hours and we just type on it or be on games for hours. If we do that with our brain, we'll have burnout. We have stress. We have anxiety. So if we think about this in the essence of a computer, if we have multiple tabs open all day, every day, and this half attention here and a quarter of attention here and 10% there and 13% here. And these are all things that are just constantly just on my brain, my spotlight, my one spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
My one spotlight is constantly scanning all day, every day. And by the time I get home, I'm tired. I don't have no energy for me or for my partner or for whatever it is. Because when you get home after multitasking all day.
So yes, you are truly depleted when
Mm-hmm.
you get home or to your final destination. Or
Yeah.
some people even have part-time jobs. So can you imagine on your day job, whatever that might be, you're multitasking at
All
work
day.
all day
All
long,
day.
and then because of economy, you happen to have a part-time job. You have to go there and be expected to
Mm-hmm.
produce. So even if you don't have a part-time job, what I like to say is when I get off of work and go home, that's really my real job. That's how I look at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's unfortunate because we're at work longer and
Mm-hmm.
we spend more time at
Mm-hmm.
work than we
Like
do
that
at
a
home.
lot,
But
actually.
that is your real job. But by the time I get there, I'm just like,
Yeah. No, no, don't get me wrong. Sometimes the day is just so
Mm-hmm.
much in the day. Um, but that applies at work too. That applies at home. That applies for ourselves with self care. Or how can we be present within our self care, or how can we be present within a meeting at work, or with our family? If we're always thinking about all these things that we have to do, or always trying to do multiple things at one time, then the gift of presence is depleted.
Yep. And I'll take it one more
Okay.
step, right? Oftentimes, it's training. People listen to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes in all of that,
Absolutely.
they're listening to respond, but also you're talking, and then I'm thinking, oh, did I cut the iron off?
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
I meant to pull
Yeah,
that
that
chicken
happens to
out to
me sometimes
defrost.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that is like some crazy conditioning that
Mm-hmm.
we programmed in our brain,
Mm-hmm.
um, the multitasking
Yeah.
download. So we do it constantly,
Mm-hmm.
but how can we back out of it?
That's a really, 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 really good question. One thing I like to do when I want to like practice presence, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
is like being very aware of all the things in my environment. So like if I'm like in this space, just looking at everything here, like hearing everything that I'm hearing, feeling everything I'm feeling, and that way I can kind of like stamp myself into this present moment. Um, I'm not gonna lie. After 7 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock during the week, or after 7, 8 o'clock, my phone is on do not disturb because now it's my time that I have to like recharge or maybe set the tone for the next
And you
day.
owe
Or
that to yourself.
yeah,
I like all of my notifications, period, all day long
all day
are
on do not
off.
disturb.
They're off because I'm getting up there in the age. I just had a birthday on Wednesday.
Happy
Woohoo,
birthday!
thank you. But listen, I'll go upstairs and I'm forgetting what I went up there for.
All
So
the time,
any distraction at
all the
this
time.
point is just going to mess me up.
Yeah, all the
So
time.
I don't have them on unless it's, I say, on a Saturday from 10 to about
Mm-hmm.
6, I'll leave the notifications on. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm spending time with my family or if I'm
Yeah.
doing something for
No, I
me,
have to.
all of them have to
I
be
have
off
to.
because I'm so dutiful and loyal that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going like, oh,
That's a
oh,
good point. That's a very
you
good point.
texted me and let me just see what she wants, or,
Yeah.
let me just, because I accept, that my mission here on earth is to serve.
Mm.
But in order to serve, one, I have to serve me first
Right.
because if my
Right.
cup is empty,
Then you can't pour.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if I leave those notifications on, my heart wants to help everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So to counter that, cut them off. And if it's an emergency, people know
It's a
how to
lot of
get
self
with me.
awareness,
It, it
to have
is.
that self awareness that, like, hey, I have a big heart, and if I know that, since I know that about myself, when I'm doing things for me, I have to turn my phone on do not disturb, or I have to not be as available
Mm-hmm.
to everybody because otherwise this won't get done and I won't be happy or whatever it is.
Yeah, or if it's going to be half done,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
speaks to you, the
yeah.
quality of you.
I like that example a lot. Another thing that we can do to help with that, I guess, desire to want to do things all the time, or like you said, be always available to every request
Mm-hmm.
or task, is create a list. Like I love a good list.
Oh
I love a
man.
good list. Like after middle of the day or the end of the day, I love crossing my stuff off the list. Like it feels so good to either check it or cross it off because of the fact that after you create a list on Sunday for the week, or if it's just for Monday, like split your work stuff and split your stuff. Even if you get 60% of it done. Let's say you only get 75%. That's fine. You got 75% of all these tasks done. You can move the next day,
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at that at the end of the day, it's like, I was successful today. Like I did 75% of the things that I set out to do, and sometimes you get 100, sometimes you get 50. But the days fluctuate.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah,
And
and
that's
I love
self
a list.
gratification.
Yeah.
Yes. And I journal.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's really important to me is to write down everything I'm grateful for, to
Like
write
that.
down things that
Yeah.
concern me, things I'm struggling with that day, or
Mhm.
whatever. So a year, 2 years down the road, once, because just recycle my books,
Mhm.
I put them up and I
Mhm.
revisit them.
Mhm.
And I could look and say, hey, on this date, this year, I was dealing with this. Wow,
Mhm.
now look.
Now look at what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so self gratification is a
Yeah,
big
no,
one.
this
It's
is
a big
very
one.
big.
Mm-hmm.
It's very big. And then also with the list, let's say if you wanna have a micro list for the day or for for the week. I like to sometimes like zoom out and then make it like a macro list. Um, so whether that's for a month, whether that's for a quarter,
Oh, you are super organized,
whether
Mr.
that's
Brandon. Talk
for
about behavioral analyst. Oh my
whether that's
God.
for like 5 months from now, 15 years from now, what would I would like that to look like? And then if I can like envision that in the future, I can reverse engineer it going backwards.
Y'all
And then
help me. I ain't there yet. I ain't there yet.
Oh man.
Help me. I need an appointment.
No, okay, no, we can figure it out. We can figure it out. It is a beautiful process to push yourself. And that comes with the gift of presence. You can't do that. You can't like envision outward to something that doesn't exist yet for you and then plan towards it if you can't be present in a moment.
That's
Like
real.
you can't creatively think about something that doesn't exist for you and then go forward
That's
towards it
real. And
without
to be
presence.
honest, there are people that just live their lives day to day to day to day. And,
Yeah.
and they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Not to say, I'm judging or
No,
anything's
no,
wrong
not
with
at
that,
all.
but
Not at all.
that is a thing.
Not at all. And even though like I know if we all ask each one of us, we would probably say like, yeah, I would like a plan, right? And if we don't have one towards one thing or these other things, that's fine. This awareness through presence. Now you know you don't, and you can make a plan for it. Make a plan to have a plan.
We can have a meeting to plan
A
for the
plan,
plan that we want
yeah.
to.
Figure it out, like.
Yes.
But it's all one step at a time, one step at a time. You know,
Right.
sometimes we get caught up in the mind and how things should be, and get attached to like what we think the end result should be, and all these should be's.
Yeah, and I don't want to preach doom and gloom, but
Mhm.
because our brain is not a computer,
Mhm.
overload for a human
Mhm.
being
Mhm.
is serious.
Very
It is
serious.
serious. It's not like, oh,
Very
gotta call
serious.
Dell, gotta send the computer for
Mm-mm.
rebuild.
Mm-mm.
For a human being, the damage is sometimes irreversible. When you're constantly running on 100,
Mhm.
what is that doing to your heart? Because of the stress.
Mm.
And if you're running at 100, you're surely not eating right.
Mhm.
You want to talk about any of those
Oh my
things?
gosh, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. If we're thinking about our body and the essence that this it has a limited amount of energy that it can expand per day, and if we are using a standard amount of brain power, but if we're multitasking now, we have to use more energy to do the same thing somebody who wouldn't be multitasking would be doing. So in that instance, it has to now take away energy from the heart, or from the liver, or from the gallbladder, or from the digestion tract, or from the respiratory tract, so that way it can complete these tasks that the user is asking it to do. You know, and then if we want to break down why that's not good at all long term for the human body, stress is anything. Stress puts the body at dis-ease, where it's dysfunction. It's disorganized. It's not in balance. And once stress goes into effect on the body, it starts to take away vitality or life force. The more we stress, the more we are willingly putting our body under shortened lifespan because it's taking away our vitality.
Mm.
You know, so multitasking is like willing stress, which certain things we can't control. Multitasking is one of those things. You know.
And that's why I call it the devil.
Yeah.
It's
One of
real,
those
y'all.
things you can control.
So what you got next? You know, what you working on? Tell
Oh
the people
man,
about
man,
what's in the
man,
future since you this
man.
big old planner. What are you seeing in the future for you, Brandon?
So as we talked about, I'm a licensed behavior analyst.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, ABA, which is Applied Behavior Analysis, is primarily used with autism and paid for within insurance for autism. But I'm definitely a trailblazer, so I'm trailblazing a new way for that. And what I have been doing for the past few years, I've been working with a nonprofit to help them with sports. It's called Aminga if you guys want to support. But it's an international nonprofit where we are working with local teenagers in Africa I am bringing in the ABA piece for hyper-focused behaviors within sports in the classrooms. After now, I am working with some other subject matter experts to create courses and programs with their expertise. One of them is called a course called Mindful Fit, and it is with Beta Health, and we are bringing my expertise of creating tailored, individualized packages with Beta Health's information and expertise with weight management. So teaching people how to literally understand and go through the process and maintain after the course.
Wow.
So
That sounds very
yeah, no, and
interesting.
then there's some more things coming. It's
So
on
how
the
could
way.
we you said Amiga?
Aminga.
Aminga.
It's spelled Aminga. Aminga Youth Sports Development Camp.
Okay.
And
We could Google it, or is there a
mhm,
website? Or...
yep, they have a website, and you can donate how much you want to Aminga, and that goes all of the proceeds go to the nonprofit and the camp. Um, and if you are interested in Beta Health, it is BETA Health. And that clinic is in Owings Mills, and we have, of course, some programs available for anybody who's interested.
All right. All right.
I'm
Okay.
very, very, very excited. Thank you.
So, Brandon, oftentimes when I wrap up an episode, I like to leave the listeners or those that are watching um, some thoughts
Okay.
to carry on with them. And ones I'm thinking of right now are ways to counter multitasking, since, we gave all the details about why it's really not
Yeah.
healthy. So, can you give us ways to counter?
No, absolutely. One way that I heavily advocate for is having multiple deadlines. If you have multiple projects, because I'm a person that I have multiple things I'm working on at once, trying not to put your mind on all of these things in necessarily one day or one sitting. Dedicate certain time to this project, and then the attention is only being given to this. So that might look like Wednesday after work. Like you get home at 5, you give yourself a break from 6 to 8. You only have attention for this.
Mm.
The first week, 2, you might not be as productive as you might think because you're just putting time into this, and it's okay. Where are the ideas and just planning. After putting some time into it over and over and over,
It becomes a
it
habit.
becomes a habit for us, and now the time spent is much more productive. But dedicating time to specific projects is something I very much advocate for. And then it takes the stress off of it.
Mm.
Takes the resistance to the feel that I have to get it done at by a certain time. And if you do have to get it done by a certain time, then maybe it's dedicating more time to that, than other things and prioritizing. And that comes with either having a list so you can prioritize those things, or one thing I do like to do often is get a paper, or I have like a board in my house, and I just like write out all the things I want to do now. And then from seeing all those things just out, just on a paper, just get, okay, what is most needed at this point in time? Because sometimes 1, 7, and 10 out of the 20 lead up to getting the rest of them done. And I can sit here and worry about step 7. Step 3, 4, and 5. But if I'm missing step 1, 2, and 3, let me just worry about these first. Like, this is what's most needed at this point in time. So that takes away a lot of the pressure to feel that you have to get all these things done all the time, because so many things demand our attention and demand our presence throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful to allocate the time over time or in small increments. Another thing that I will leave with is get accountability partners. That helps quite a lot, because you can't do it all by yourself sometimes. And even if you're on a roll, right? Something's going to change. If life's going to hit, we're going to have a fluctuation week or day. And then that way you guys can kind of hold each other accountable, cheer each other on, support each other in times of need. And even if that is, whether that's a friend, whether that's a parent, whether that's somebody you consider a mentor, you get accountability partners to help, keep you on that track and in that lane that you say you want to be in.
That's good. That's good. Boy, this conversation is so deep. And I got a lot out of it. So I really hope you guys did as well. I want to thank you so much for listening or watching. I am Jean Monnet, and this is the Hidden Parts Podcast. I welcome you to follow me on all social media platforms, Instagram at The Hidden Parts Podcast, YouTube, The Hidden Parts Podcast, Facebook, The Hidden Parts Podcast. While you do it, remember to like, subscribe, but more importantly, come back. Oh yeah, you can share it too. What's your socials?
My socials are For The Collective, the number 4, The Collective. That is TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on again.
Thank you for coming. And you gonna come back?
Yes.
It's an open door policy.
Yes, no, I would love to come back.
All right.
You just let me know.
All right, promise?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey. Till next time. Oh, that's slick. You got to put me down with
QR
that.
code, so all the socials on here.
You got to put me down.
Yeah, no, I got you.
There you are. Thank you so much. Yay.
Thank you.